Welcome back, everybody, to the College Hockey Mouth podcast, a College Hockey South series. This is episode 13. Danny, welcome back from Huntsville, Alabama. You were in commentary for some of those games, I heard, and looked pretty fun. A Middle Tennessee win, but how was the weekend over there in Alabama?
Well, first of all, this is usually where I get my college football talk in for like a couple of minutes because I'm a college football nut on top of being a hockey freak. But Texas and South Carolina were both on bye weeks. And I guess that's a good thing for Carolina because, I mean, I don't know, this year they would find a way to lose on the bye week. Like my freshman year, or the first couple of years at Carolina when they were terrible, we would at least be like, you know what? We may lose on the field, but we're going to win the tailgate. I've been seeing some of the videos, and I think we're starting to lose the tailgates now. Like, if you've seen some of the videos coming out from our tailgates, if you know, you know. I'm not going to get into it anymore. But yeah, Vets Cup was a blast. Middle Tennessee supplanted themselves as the number one team in the country, no doubt. Those rankings come out later this week, and I'm assume we're going to see them at number one. But I've got a couple of things I want to get to. Have nothing to do with the game, so which we'll recap later on. But as you said, I was on commentary for the first game. Second game was Middle Tennessee against Tennessee, and Brady Palmer, the great Brady Palmer, and the penalty box radio folks were broadcasting that. They did a great job. So I'm down there in the box with Brooks and Savannah Prefontaine and a bunch of other folks, and they're all huddled around a phone watching the Alabama game. I'm looking around. I'm like, wait a minute. These are all Alabama kids. Like, I'm surrounded by like Crimson Tide. It's like I'm at Bryant Denny. I was like, and so I like to stir things up. I'm an asshole. So I was like, Alabama missed a kick. I was like, go Tigers, just trying to get on their nerves. And I'm realizing that in our studio right now, listening to our conversation is an actively enrolled student at the University of Alabama. So probably not the best way to get on her side to start, but I've got a second point from Vets Cup. I'm gonna get her back, Devin. Don't worry. Second day, Savannah had something to do, so Brooks had to hop on aux. Morgan Brooks, head of our graphic design team, he's awesome. The whole team does such a great job. They're rock stars, right? However, his music selection, my God, was it bad? Okay, it was awful. Like, probably heard the same Pitbull song like four times, and I'm giving it to him on the broadcast. I was like, folks, if you had, Don't Stop the Party by Pitbull, if you took the over on it being played 3.5 times, cash those tickets. Anyways, we get to like the end of the second period, and Alabama's goalie gets run two times in three shifts. So there's a scrum that happens, gloves flying, sticks flying, whatever. Referees go over and convene by the penalty bench. The kids are getting led to the box, and Brooks starts playing the Canadian national anthem. These kids are getting led to the box, and they're playing Canada. And on the broadcast, I'm sure there was probably like 5 seconds of like dead silence because I have headphones on. I'm trying to process what I'm hearing, and it's "O Canada" being played. Like, I don't know, maybe it was like the Pitbull version of "O Canada." It didn't play long enough for us to realize Brooks, heck of a graphic designer, but he was not even on the hot seat anymore for being on aux. He will never, and I'll see to it personally, he will never play music at a CHS event ever again. That was brutal. Great guy though.
I do respect the attempt at trying to get the party raised, right? Because I think Pitbull is a good de facto. We need something off the Spotify playlist. Let's throw in something. But that's brutal. Like four times in a row, I would go crazy. I think
It
like the
wasn't
Canadian anthem, if it was in French, would be like a little bit funnier. But if we're just talking like the regular one, then yeah, this is definitely some hot seat worthy stuff.
It was like the first 10 notes, and I was like, there's no way this is happening right now. It was obviously a mistake, but how is that on the same playlist as a bunch of Pitbull songs like Mr. Worldwide and "Oh Canada"? Where did you find this? It's not game day mix. Anyways,
Yeah, so moral of the story is Morgan is banned from Aux for our next one, which will be College Hockey South playoffs all the way in February. Sorry, stud, but like you say, he does a great job making our cover art for the pod, all the other graphics on the social page. Solid weekend for me. Keep it simple. Called 5 games in 3 days for Florida Atlantic. Saw Tampa just absolutely whoop FAU M3, and then the M2 team had a, for all intents and purposes, surprise performance, a sweep over Florida. But my best moment of that weekend was meeting Scrub Daddy, Aaron Kraus, Bryce K's dad. He gave me this sticker that's a phone screen cleaner. It's these little circle pads that stick onto your phone, and I guess they've got like this microbial cleaning solution on them or whatever. But God, he was a character. I mean, we're there, into the dead of midnight, and he's just laughing away. He's got his, family and friends there, and like they're waiting outside for the bus, and they're just, shooting the crap till like 1 a.m. Like I'm leaving, and these guys are all just like in a circle, just like post gaming it. So heck of a time meeting him and everybody that's involved with that program. We've got a great episode ahead and a great interview we're going to bring to you in a moment here. We are joined by a member of the Alabama women's team. She is the reigning conference MVP in the women's division, one of the most elite players to come into College Hockey South, and has been trailblazing for this women's team for the year and now the last year and a half. Please welcome, with great pleasure, to the College Hockey Mouth podcast, Claire Carson. Claire, welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. It'll be fun.
This is something that we wanted to get done a lot sooner, and I know Danny's had it bulletin boarded because you are an exceptional talent. The numbers you put up last year are just honestly just stupid in a good way. 11 multi-point games, 4 those hat tricks. You were top 3 in scoring in all categories. You're from Burlington, Ontario, so this seems pretty natural. Tell us how you got into hockey and playing growing up.
So my parents never played, but I feel like being in Canada, it's like, it's a Canadian thing. People always say that. But my sister started playing, and she started playing late. So I was about like 3 or 4, and I watched her play like her first game, and I kind of just was like, that's what I want to do. I used to be like a dancer, but I was not very good. So I was like, I'm done with that. I want to play. Yeah, I was like, I want to play hockey. So my dad literally like took me out, got me skates. And like the first time I stepped on the ice, it's like I was just skating in circles for hours. So yeah, I feel like I was kind of, I don't know, I just wanted to be like my sister, and now I continue to play. So it's kind of how I got into it. But
Yeah. So for people that are kind of unfamiliar in the States with like the hierarchy of hockey before you get to the college ranks, where were you and what was that experience like? What that competition was like for you?
so I played, in Canada and the US, women's hockey is different. So like our double A would be like your like American triple A. So I played I guess like American triple A, but most of my hockey career up until my junior and senior year, which is where I played junior, which is like basically just triple A, but like older people, I guess you could say. So that's kind of where I finished off. I went to prep school for my last 2 years of high school as well. So we traveled all around. We played lots of teams in the States as well. It was a very cool experience. I mean, like getting to play at a high level my whole life was honestly, I'm really glad that I did. Even from like a young age, it was busy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Like I'm really glad I did it. The competitions was for sure. It was difficult. I mean, I enjoyed it. I think like any competition is good. So yeah.
So we're talking with AAA here, the Bell Tires. I think in Victory Honda, being from Michigan, I know some of these programs. So, give people a comparison. Are you playing against essentially girls that may have went NCAA D3, D1? I think a lot of people may be familiar with girls that played Unified High School. Like, what's that skill level?
I would say it's a lot of girls that went NCAA, Division 1 and Division 3 are like the main ones. Quite a few girls went ACHA as well. I mean, there's so many girls that they would take any opportunity to play anywhere. But yeah, I would say like mainly NCAA, D1 and D3 were like the main ones that everybody shoots for in my league. But yeah, that's kind of where I fell in that.
Not the typical jump to go from just outside Toronto all the way down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, T-Town as they call it, Devin. I don't know if you knew that. How'd you end up at Bama? And I don't know if you had any expectations of what hockey was going to be like in the South, how they differed, or maybe not, from how things have played out for you.
Yeah. So getting to Alabama was it was honest, like to be honest, it was very random. I obviously like throughout my hockey career in Canada, my main goal was NCAA Division 1 just like everybody else. I had toured a couple schools, D3, D1, ACHA, and every time I toured a school, like nothing ever clicked for me. And my dad used to always tell me like when you go to the right school, like you're going to know that that's where you're supposed to be. And I kind of just at the end of all my tours in my senior year, I was like, I don't know where I want to go. I feel like nowhere I visited is like the right place for me, and I don't know what I want to do. And so I was kind of felt like I was like at a standstill, like I really didn't know what my next steps were going to be. And then randomly one day, my mom was scrolling on her Facebook, and Alabama women's hockey popped up. And so I was like, no way, like, that's so random, like, what? That's no. So, we looked into it, and obviously, I knew it was gonna be very new, obviously, like, 2nd year, or at least for Alabama, it would be their 2nd year as, like, a real team. So, it's very new and, like, competition. I wasn't really sure what to expect, but my dad, he played football for University of Hawaii, and he was like, "Honestly, Claire, like, seeing a big school like this would be, like, it would be life-changing. It's so much different than all these Canadian schools and these little, D3 schools that you're looking at. You might as well just give it a try." And so I literally, before I even toured, I just like applied, and I was like, you know what, like, why not? So I just applied. I looked at some pictures online, and once I got in, Savannah actually reached out to me, and so did Anya, and they both were like, "We would love to have you come down here. Like, obviously, we know it's going to be super different from what you're already looking at, but I think, like, we really want you. I think, you should give it a try." And I don't know why. I really don't. I just was like, you know what? Yeah, like, let's give it a try. So I literally showed up on my first day and moved in. I hadn't toured. I hadn't done anything. I just showed up, and I absolutely love it. As random as it was, I'm really glad that, it happened the way it did.
Sounds like some divine intervention.
Right?
You
Big time.
see a
Yeah.
school that you don't think anything of it. I've heard in an interview you said that you didn't even know if they knew what hockey was down here.
Yeah, that
And
is true.
you come through. So, like, when you finally get on campus, like, how much of it is it not only a surprise to find out that hockey is in Tuscaloosa, but then seeing the men's team and eventually the women's team? What was that experience like for the first week?
It was honestly, it was pretty crazy. I mean, like, I really truly had no expectations coming in, and I remember our first tryouts, like, so clearly, because I showed up and I was obviously a little nervous because I didn't really know, again, like, I didn't know what the competition was going to be like, and I didn't know where these girls who I was going to play with are coming from, and I had no idea there was not just one men's team but three. Like, I didn't know any of this. And so, I showed up, and all these girls are from, like, all these places I've heard of. Like Kira, who was our captain last year, like Honey Baked, like I know Honey Baked, or, like some teams in Illinois, or like all this. I knew that, and I was like, wow, like, this is a lot more familiar than I thought. And then I found out there was three men's teams, and I was like, whoa, like, this could, I didn't know this was a thing, but I think this could grow into something really big, and I feel like it has, which is, like, super awesome. And it's only been a year, so it's been pretty crazy just to, like, experience it all and to see it happen right in front of me.
Yeah. I mentioned it in our intro, but I'm a SEC football nut. Coming from a hotbed of hockey to a hotbed for college football, have you picked up on that intensity, or is it like, does it really translate to you as someone who didn't really grow up with college football?
I would say, my first semester, I was a little bit like, this is so weird. Like, this is so strange. But everybody is so into it, and I was like, this is so weird. Like, I'm not gonna be like that. And then, the more and more I watched, the more and more I was like, this is kind of fun. Like, I kind of like this. And now this year, I'm totally, like, into it. Like, I watch every game. I've literally been to, like, almost all the games. I get pretty into it. I mean, I still, this, like, I hate to admit this because I feel like I can't admit this, but, like, I still don't know all the rules. Like, I am working on it still. And you think I would too, because, my dad played football, so, like, I should know. But I'm getting more into it now. And it's weird too, because even when we play, like, on ice, like, when we play other teams, like, especially when we played, like, Tennessee or, like, Georgia, like, those football games, like, translate to our hockey, and it's so weird. It's like we're talking about football and, like, this big rivalry against each other,
Hmm.
like, on ice, and it's just so weird because, like, it actually does make you want to play harder. But it's like I've never even thrown a football, but I feel like I'm on the team. Like, I feel like I'm, like, but
Come
yeah.
on.
Yeah,
You've
well,
never thrown a
no,
football?
I definitely have thrown a football. That was a lie. I was just exaggerating, but I have thrown a football.
Okay.
Yeah, but, like, not in, like, any other setting.
You remind me a bit of there's this, like, Instagram account where this, and I don't know if it's real or not. I think she might be acting, but there's this, like, foreign girl that, like, goes to her first football game, like,
Oh, yeah,
in the SEC, it might be, and
yeah.
she's just, like, doesn't have a clue. And obviously you come from a sports family, so it's a little different for you, but, like, you're into it, and that's incredible. I can't say the same. Like, my college teams suck in football, just bluntly, but it's different in the South, and I love that energy. I
South
want to
Carolina's
touch
two and
on,
five, buddy. South Carolina's 2-5. Don't should have beat
well,
Alabama, by the way.
Alabama is
Should have
number
beat
4 in the
Alabama.
country. I mean, it might as well be Nick Saban there now. Like, all the talk about your current head coach is gone, and I mean, you might be going to
Okay.
Miami. Who knows? We might see you in South Florida in a few months.
Okay.
But
Let's move
I
along.
want to, yeah, right. this is a hockey podcast after all, not football. I want to touch on your relationship with Savannah Prefontaine. She was our very first guest on the pod. And back then, she called you her little Canadian recruit turned lifelong best friend. Talk to us about the influence she's had on you, not only as a player, but as a person as well.
She's had like such a huge influence on me. I mean, she was the first person to ever reach out to me about Alabama women's hockey. So really, truly, like I wouldn't be here without her reaching out to me. Like from the first day, I already felt comfortable. Like she knows like about Canada. Like she's Canadian. So I mean, we had that kind of connection right off the bat, which was honestly, it was really comforting to have somebody like that. And continuously throughout this year and last year, she's just always there. Even, obviously like she's women's commissioner now, which is like such a big step for her. She's still always there whenever I need her. And I mean, yeah, she really, like I really am her little Canadian. Like, I mean, we say it all the time. And I'm really, really happy that she's somebody that I get to, spend my, college life with. She's just been very impactful for the past 2 years.
That's awesome. Another person that I'm sure has had an impact on you, Anya Laxton, who was your assistant coach last year, this year's stepped into the role as head coach. How would you characterize her role and how you've come into the spotlight in college hockey South so far?
Anya definitely has a lot to do with it. I mean, she is probably one of, if not the best coach that I've personally had, and I've had a lot of coaches growing up. And I feel like when you play at a competitive level of hockey, you're always going to run into these coaches that really don't care about you specifically. Like really truly, that's just the way it is. It sucks, but it's the way it is. And so coming from obviously like very competitive hockey growing up and having some not so great coaches, coming into last year and having Anya there was seriously like I'm so grateful for her. She really does care about you, not just as a player, but off ice as well. I mean, she always knows what's going on in your life. And she's always going to be the first person there to, support you or be proud of you for whatever it may be. It could be literally like some stupid, you just passed a test and she's, jumping up and down and excited for you. And I feel like that's been super impactful for me. I mean, it makes me want to play. There's definitely been times where I'm like, I don't really want to, not at Alabama, but like previously there's been times where I'm like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this, but having like Anya there is like one of the reasons why I feel like not only me, but our team like continues to go out there and play hard because she's just such a great presence to have on the bench. So that's what I would say.
That's an interesting point you make about in previous times wondering if it's still for you. Like I know guys and girls now that they get in the same situation. Hockey gets a little too serious. The game's not fun anymore. You lose your love for it. It sounds like you've gained a love and appreciation for a situation you didn't know what it was going to be. You're vice president now, and I'm sure you've learned a lot from her and Savannah and the people you've been around. So what kind of things have you taken with you that you try to incorporate into your program on and off the ice?
I would say the biggest thing, I already mentioned it before with Anya, but just like having the ability to genuinely care about what you're doing. I feel like that's a really big one, is like not only just like doing it, but like showing it to other people, like that, how much I care about the program, because I really do care about the program so much. And I feel like that's one thing that, like Savannah and Anya and, all these other girls have shown me, is like just caring about it and showing people that you care about it goes a long way. And just, yeah, I feel like for me, like that's the biggest thing. We've gotten so far by, just showing people how much the program means to us and how much College Hockey South means to us. And I know that, the other teams in the league feel the same way as well. And that's kind of something that I've taken with me and carried it throughout, these past 2 years. And, being vice president this year, I feel like that's a big one as well.
Okay, so last year, first year in CHS for your team, and you guys reached the pinnacle as far as like winning the conference.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to that in a second. But one thing that I saw, because I was down at the scorers table, you guys, so the whole celly's going on. You guys are parading the trophy around on the ice and everything. And then I hear someone say, "Put the onions in the trophy. Put the onions in."
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the story behind the onions? Because I don't think I ever heard any context behind that.
So basically, we show up to playoffs, and Morgan's our captain now, and obviously Kira was our captain last year, but so they show up to their room and they are looking around and they open their closet, and in our hotel closet there's a bag of onions. And they took a picture and sent to our group chat. And we were like, this is so weird. Like, who left their onions in the hotel? Like, ew, gross, throw them out. And I guess like on their way down, like maybe I think Kira saw her parents, and her parents told her that onions actually represent like way back when it represented like bravery and like courage and stuff. And so I really don't know why, but us as a team, we decided, you know what, like these are like the winning onions, and we brought them with us to every and to breakfast and in the bus. We gave the onions a jersey, we gave the onions a stick. Like they were really truly like very very important part of our playoffs. I don't know why, I don't know what it was. We would yell like go onions on the bench. Like it's so weird, but you know, it was, yeah, that's the story. It's not as, you know, crazy as it seems. Literally we found some probably rotten onions in the closet and took them with us and thought it was a good idea, but clearly it worked. So
Did
I'll
they
say
did they stay in like the original bag that they were
they
found in?
did. They never left.
Oh man.
They never left the onion bag. They all stayed
What
together.
a superstition. I
Yeah,
mean, this
right?
is like what the producers at DreamWorks were probably thinking with Shrek, you know, and then ended up springing like 4 or 5 movies, you know. Onions have layers, ogres have layers. But
Did they
gosh,
reek though?
that's
Did they what? Sorry?
Did they reek? Like they had to have smelled like crazy.
Honestly, really didn't. Like I don't know what, like they really didn't smell. They didn't look like, this is so gross, but they didn't really like look funky either. We were like, oh no, it's fine. Yeah, I really don't. And it's funny too because they went directly in the trash can right after we won. They went right in the garbage, like right after we won. It was like, yeah, we held them around the cup for a little bit, and then we decided, you know, we should probably throw them out.
I would have them like nailed to the wall in like the
Yeah,
in the locker room. Like those are staying around forever.
we really
That's
need.
just me. I don't know.
every win gets an onion, you know. It's like when they put pucks up in the playoffs and like they cape it, like
There you
that's your
go.
winning onion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna need a new bag. I don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah, I know.
God, that's wild. It's the first time I've heard of a fruit superstition, but
Fruit?
we don't judge.
I'm sorry, fruit?
Wait, no. Did I say fruit? Vegetable. Big misconception. Whoops. Yep.
I don't think it's
Yep.
a misconception. I think that was just a mistake, Devin. I don't
Well,
think anyone.
I get misconstrued on what my fruits and veggies are. I'm the first guy that would tell you like a tomato. Well, is a tomato a vegetable?
Tomato is
Because
It's a controversy,
I
yeah,
feel like it
because
is.
technically, because it has seeds, it's a fruit.
Right. But they put it in the middle. I don't know. We're getting on a tangent, but yeah, onions. Love it.
Onions,
Love it.
rally onions, baby.
yeah.
Rally onions.
Yes, roll onions.
Man. All right. So right, you win the conference. You know, this year you guys are in a little bit of a different, you know, set of circumstances, more teams, a little bit of a different, you know, league now, I believe. So, you know, tell us where the current state of the program is, what your guys' goals are for this year going forward. Like, where do you want to see eventually Alabama hockey end up in your time as a player?
I think right now, obviously, yeah, it is definitely a different year, more teams, we're in a different league, like scheduling a little difficult. But so I think for this year, our main goal is just to, you know, ride off our win last year and continue to keep winning, keep doing well. You know, eventually when we go to playoffs, hopefully we can, you know, come home with a win again. That would be great. And then overall, I think, you know, we all kind of have the same goal, is just to watch the program take these steps. I mean, obviously going into ACHA this year was like a pretty big step for us already in itself, which is amazing. And hopefully, I mean, you know, however long it takes, we hope to take, you know, more of those kind of steps, whether it's, you know, growing within the ACHA or, you know, just getting a bigger team. Even a rank would be great. Obviously, those are all things that we'd like to see. But as of right now, we're just focusing on, you know, continue to win and ride off the momentum we have last year. But we definitely want to see the program, you know, grow as big as it can. Even if, you know, if I'm not here 10, 15 years down the road, if we could see Alabama women's hockey, you know, be a lot more popular than it is now, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I want to tell a little bit of like a personal anecdote. It was something that made an impression on me. So back before playoffs last year, I was putting together a story on your team and how they were coming together in the first year, and they were like a favorite coming into conference playoffs. And I talked to you and a few other of your teammates leading up to that week. Anyways, games happen, and I think you had taken a couple penalties in like the same game, and I'm working at the scores table. And you come into the box and you're steaming mad. And Mr. and Mrs. Carson, I can't confirm or deny if she said any expletives, but she was mad, all right? she did not agree. She did not agree with the calls. And so the second penalty, you come in and you don't even know what the call is, and so you were like, you say to me like, "What do you even call me for?" And I was like, it was a high stick. You got her. You definitely got her." Like I was looking at the play, and so you were steaming mad, and I was like, "By the way, I'm Danny," and you were like, and there was like a complete switch up in personality, which was so funny because I was asking your teammates about you. They were like saying like, "Oh, she's like the sweetest, like she's like a teddy bear." And you were like locked in and fiery, and then I saw the switch, and that just made like a huge impression on me. So my question to you is, do you think there's like a tangible difference between on ice in game Claire and then out of game Claire, or is it just like there's like shades of gray?
Honestly, it really does depend. I feel like most of the time, I'm pretty, like bubbly, normal, like happy Claire, like most of the time. But there's definitely like when I start to play hockey or the game, especially when the game's like intense, like I am not gonna be like not necessarily unhappy, but I definitely feel like I guess you could say like lock in. I don't really like that, but like lock in more
Hmm.
than I would be. Especially like I don't know what it is, but I really hate getting penalties. Like I really hate it. Like I really don't like it. It's always been something like since I was literally 4 years old. Like anytime I get a penalty or like someone's, I do anything like that, I get pretty angry, as you may have seen. But as soon as it's like that, it's like unrelated, like I kind of just like switch back into being like my normal self. But I do get pretty angry. I mean, I like hate to say it because I feel like I don't get angry often off ice, but on ice I do get angry, not a lot, but when it's
Hmm.
warranted. So like if I miss the net, like I'm gonna get angry and I will, maybe like throw my stick around a little bit. But other than that, I feel like it's really depends on the situation.
So I'm guessing you're not a talker on the ice, but if somebody says something to you, it's something you don't want your parents hearing, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I'm not gonna start it at all. I'm never gonna start it. But if you're gonna say something to me, especially when it's something that's so ridiculously untrue that I just have to be like, "Are you serious? Like you're really gonna say that?" Because I know you're lying, so I don't know. But like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I won't start it. But if you're gonna start it and say something, then I might have to say something back.
It's
But
open season.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh, admitted. I read somewhere that you were a soccer player. Is that true?
That is true. Yes, I've actually played soccer.
Among
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, dance. Oh yeah, go ahead. Explain.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say I've actually played soccer longer than I played hockey, which is pretty funny to think about. But yeah.
Wow. So I mean, what translates from the soccer game to hockey? Similar concept, but I know they've got to be pretty different, right?
Yeah, I would say they're pretty different. Obviously, positioning wise, in soccer, I'm a center midfield, and in hockey, I'm a center. So they kind of translate to each other a little bit. I mean, obviously, like a center is always like a little bit like you'd like to say that they're more defensive, but obviously, offense is important too. But that kind of translates to one another. But sometimes in soccer, I'd play defense, and I was like, this is not helpful. Like I don't know. But sometimes I don't know, like body positioning, things like that. Those translate well, but I would say like overall, they're pretty different. I mean, obviously, you have 11 players on the field versus like 5. So it's like, I don't know. Some translated, some definitely did not. And I was like, this is not helpful. But yeah.
How about like getting in shape for one versus the other? Because soccer, you get a pretty good cardio base for that.
Mhm.
And hockey, like, so I've heard, it's one thing to be just like in shape versus like skating shape and like being like game shape. How do those differ from hockey and soccer for you?
I would say like for soccer growing up, it was again like you mentioned a lot of cardio. Like it was always like running and like running logs and a lot of like quick things, like quick bursts of things, like or we did a lot of circuits. And then for hockey growing up, I did a lot. It's a lot of like strength training. That's almost always that's like all I did was strength training and then a little bit of cardio at the end just because hockey in itself, you get a lot of like cardio regardless. I mean, you're out there for like 40 seconds and you get off and you're like there back. So you still need cardio, but we did a lot of things where it's like explosivity, like jumping, deadlifts, squats, like all of that. That's kind of what I would do a lot like growing up. But sorry, there's a train. But yeah, that's how
New goal horn.
yeah, literally. Oh, it's so annoying. But yeah, I would say they're pretty different. But I mean, they both like the cardio aspect is definitely very similar for both. But I'd had a lot more strength training for hockey than I did for soccer.
By the way, I had my sophomore apartment right next to a train tracks, and also right down the street from the fire station.
So
So
that's
I'm yeah grinding at 2:30 studying. I have like so many videos where I'm like delusional. I'm taking videos of myself and it's 2:30 and there's like sirens and the train is going.
Yeah, I had that experience too at Central Michigan. There was I guess most colleges do, I guess, like the late night train, and it was like 1 a.m.
Perfect.
So
Yeah.
yeah, this
They're
is a
solid.
universal thing for us here.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, maybe it's because we're into hockey, the goal horns and stuff. But
Yeah, maybe.
yeah, well, I this wasn't on a sheet, but I might as well ask, like, for you, I'm sure you can teach a lot about the game to people that don't know about it. There's been a lot of initiatives with Savannah Prefontaine, Grow the Game. You've obviously met players now that haven't skated a whole lot in their life. So, what do you say to people that, and girls specifically, to want to pick up hockey? How do you sort of, in all layman's terms, break the ice to entering a game that, is multifaceted with skating and stick work? Like, how do you just tell people the easiest way to get into the game, and what can people do to start now if they want to jump in someday?
For me, or like for what I would say would probably be, first of all, to just try it. I feel like a lot of girls that I've met are like very hesitant to get on the ice or to try even just a little bit. I know it's very scary, especially if you start late. It is very scary because I mean, obviously, I started young, so it was pretty easy for me to learn because you pick it up quickly. But I mean, I think like the biggest thing is just like have confidence and just try, because really truly, like once you get on the ice and you learn how to do a proper hockey stride, like from there on you're fine. And I would say like that's my biggest piece of advice, is to just go out there and try it, and just try your best to have as much confidence as you can. I mean, like obviously you're going to fall over, but I mean eventually you're not, really, eventually you're not. Once you do it enough, you're not going to. And yeah, hockey's definitely a very fast pace. There's lots of other things that go into being a good hockey player. I mean, you need to have skills a part of it, but like your IQ is a big part of it as well. So I'd say if you're really really trying to like look into playing, for me at least, like watching hockey is a big one as well. Take the time, watch hockey, see positioning. That's a really big one. Know where to be, all of that. And I think once you do that, really, I think you'll be able to play if you just take the time to kind of understand the game, and obviously get out there and try.
All right. So speaking of taking time, we've taken a bunch of your time already, and thank you so much. We're gonna have a few lightning round questions. So, who on the team, in the locker room, on the bus, who hops on aux? Who's the DJ?
Who hops on aux? I feel like it's usually like Morgan or Tegan.
What's playing?
Pardon?
What's playing
What's
when they're on
playing?
aux? Yeah.
We play. I mean, it used to be like we played a lot of remixes. We play a lot of, honestly, like just like random stuff, like really truly like random. I wouldn't say we play a lot of rap, because I mean I don't think a lot of us like rap, but a lot of people do. And then we also like to play pitch perfect riff offs.
Okay, you know what? That came up a bunch when at the Columbus Classic, like our group chat of all the interns that were help running it. It was like one of the last days, and we're getting like delirious from how long we've been at the rink. And people are sending in song suggestions, and it was like we entered a different world. I was like, I've never heard any of this before, but it was all the pitch perfect like riff off stuff.
Yeah, yeah, we like pitch perfect.
Well, this might be as clear as pitch perfect in your mind. Favorite memory that comes to you when in your CHS career, or even just in general playing hockey?
I would say my favorite memory would definitely be winning playoffs. That was really huge for us. And I've growing up, obviously playing hockey, I've been to so many tournaments, and I literally have only ever won something as big as that like one other time, and I was like 12. And so finally getting something else was like huge, and that's definitely like got to be my favorite memory for sure.
Last thing for me, I tried to get Savannah to, you know, I don't know, maybe let us in on a little bit of flair. I don't want to say dirt, but maybe some like fun stuff to bring up. And she was Fort Knox. She didn't say anything. So shout out to Savannah, at least for you. I mean, for us. So I guess let's turn it around. Any fun stories about Savannah that you'd like to bring up here
Fun stories about Savannah. I mean, she's
that you can tell?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, she's already just like, I feel like we have a lot of like fun and like random stories. But like I don't really know. I don't know if I can like, there's some that I'm like thinking of, but I don't know if I should say them. I think fun stories. Probably just like last year I went to Huntsville with her for that one tournament, and I can't remember the name, but the men's tournament. I went there with her.
Oh, Vets Cup. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, I went there with her last year, and it was just like honestly fun all around. Like getting to spend a night with Savannah in a hotel room it's very funny, and that's all I'll say. But she's just a very, she's very funny. She's a very funny person to be around, and yeah.
So the one thing that she mentioned is that I think you were interviewed by AAU after like one of your games at AAU Nationals, and you said
Yes.
you were going to the beach for the first time, and that was like a complete lie.
I swear I didn't say that, but everybody on my team was like, Claire, like you made it sound like it's your first time at the beach. And I was like, but that's not what I said. Like I thought she asked me if we had been to the beach yet. And I said, no, it'll be my first time going, but I didn't mean my first time at the beach. I just meant my first time at the beach then. And yeah, you know what? That's pretty funny. I mean, Savannah still bugs me about that, like to this day. Like she still brings that up. Like
Not talking about the Lake Ontario or Lake Superior Beach, are we?
no, when we were in, well, I mean, I've been to that beach. I've been to that. I live right by like Lake Ontario. I promise
Well,
before.
being from that region, that
Yeah.
like the joke is it's a beach, but nobody goes in the water because it's freezing cold.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, that's so true. I mean, the most I'll do is like, I don't know, sit there. Like, I don't, it's kind of boring though to just sit there. I feel like you kind of just look at it and you're like, oh,
Ice fishing
yeah, you
in
can
the
do that.
winter.
But I don't like fishing. So like,
Fair.
but
Um, that's great stuff. One final one for you. What is your pitch to a prospective player that's looking at a place like Alabama? And put yourself maybe in the shoes of like somebody that doesn't realize what it is, and like you were in the spot. What's your ultimatum? What's your pitch to them?
I've talked to a lot of recruits, this past year, and the main thing that I tell them when they ask me, about Alabama's hockey, and they always ask me, what's your favorite thing about it? And like, what is it? And I'm always just saying, first off, that the league and the team in general is it's like an experience that you won't get anywhere else. It's everybody's working towards this like one goal, and you're literally making history. And I feel like that's a huge point I like to make people, is that you're literally making history and you get to watch it right in front of you. I mean, the past few years, that's all I've seen is like how many steps that not only Alabama, but every team is taking. And it's something that, you're not going to get to be a part of anywhere else. And, it's worth giving it a shot. And also just that Alabama women's hockey as a team, I feel like we're not just a team. We really are a family. And as cheesy as it sounds, we really are. It's a different experience coming from competitive hockey. Everyone competes against each other, and it doesn't feel like that. But coming here, that's what it feels like. And not only are making history, watching the league grow, and you get to be a part of it, but also you're with like 20 of your best friends all at the same time. And, everybody's just there to have fun. And I feel like that's the main thing. And that's kind of what I would say.
That's perfectly said. Couldn't agree more. And you are trailblazing this league by a lot. We're looking forward to seeing you become a leader and continuing to develop this program. Thanks so much for joining us, Claire. Rockstar episode. We'll talk down the line, and good luck with you and that Alabama team the rest of the year.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Danny, that might be one of my favorite interviews that I've done personally. Claire, very well spoken, already sounds like a true leader. Great things are coming for that Alabama program. I know it's a little bit of a weird year for them in the transition of leagues. Just all around, the kind of player you want your team and the person to represent the league.
Definitely. She has a good head on her shoulders. This was an exciting one. We've had a goalie of the year, someone who's played against Gretzky, um, managers and the great Bryce K, but never a league MVP. That was a first for us. And that was an MVP interview, if you will.
I know, and we're only 13 episodes into this. Like, the sky's the limit for our portfolio of guests we've had. I think what stands out to me is the ability of Claire to like go somewhere, take that risk, because I think we can all relate to jumping into something we're not 100% sure is what we think it is. And it's a true testament. If you want to go to a school and you don't know if we're talking hockey, they have a team, like they might just have one, and then it turns out to be something even greater. I think that's a great story for anybody that listens to this and is wondering about their future choices with the school or their stage of life, whether you're in hockey or not. A lot of wisdom from Claire Carson, and only a sophomore. Really looking forward to what Alabama hockey goes to on the women's side going forward. Let's talk about week 10 here. Vets Cup went down, a controlling win of that tournament for Middle Tennessee. You said in the episode opener, just established themselves as the number one team, better than the other teams there. No disrespect to Tennessee, Alabama, Kennesaw State, but Middle Tennessee was in a class of their own this weekend.
For sure. Seeing them in person for the first time this year, what stood out to me, and it wasn't even necessarily a surprise because of the numbers they've been putting up, is how connected and it seemed like a step ahead that top line was. And the top line I'm referring to is who we had on the podcast last week: Lyndon Palmer, Matt Siciliano, and Tommy Chunchikov. Those guys have a chemistry, and when guys with that kind of skill have a chemistry together, it can be dangerous, and they certainly were. But it was the cast of characters that kind of filled in the score sheet. Funny enough, Kieran Ogle, brother Brendan Ogle, um, ended up picking up the tournament MVP. But I want to talk about that. What was our game of the week? Score was a little bit deceptive. 6-1 MTSU. They got two quick ones. It kind of looked like maybe they were going to run away with it. Ultimately, they did. But beginning of that second period, hello,
Let there be light. I'm not in
let
my
there be.
my cave. Yeah, a little bit. I don't even know how many different studio backgrounds I've had. This is like the fifth or sixth one in this show now.
Are they the Northern Lights? Because apparently they're supposed to be visible here in North Atlanta in the next few days.
Those were visible in Florida. I saw a picture this morning on Instagram that was somewhere on the East Coast. I don't know if it's as far as Boca or Daytona, but I mean, we had that like geomagnetic storm come through from the sun. Like there was a
Apparently, yeah.
giant gap. Yeah, this is we're not even talking hockey here, but like that was nuts to see. I think there's cleaning people coming through, but no, like I mean, like you were saying about Middle Tennessee, like what looks like to me anyway, and you talk about depth, like the championship win for the conference last year, their ability to learn from that first weekend losing games to a good UNC Wilmington team that's undefeated, by the way, and then parlaying that into experience and ultimately controlling how they play. The way they go on the ice, it looks like they know exactly where the puck's going to go, what their plan is, and they've executed it from start to finish so far this year.
Yeah, and what I was saying before the Northern Lights rudely interrupted me. Speaking of lighting it up, Middle Tennessee State, boy, they score goals. No, but the point I was trying to make was Tennessee only down 2-0 early in the second period. They put together like a pretty good stretch of like 5 to 6 minutes where they were controlling the puck. They had a top line of Jacob Sackenheim, Dylan Siegel, and Ben Felicki. Those were the three guys. Top line, and they were snapping it around, had MTSU hemmed in. Some close calls, hit a crossbar, had a puck in behind the goalie. I believe it was Grant Williams in that game. A story as old as time in hockey, right? Like a bunch of chances at one end, you don't cash in, and then it's just one at the other, and it goes in. It's 3-0. And, two probably felt like a mountain to climb, and then three felt like it was impossible. Ended up being 6-1, and then MTSU just ran KSU's show in the championship game. Yeah, undisputed number one, I would say. Have to be, right?
So by the time this recording comes out, you're going to see new rankings, and I
Mm-hmm.
challenge people to look for not just what the graphic sees, but go into the raw data and look at the strength of schedule. Look at the game performance score, because they have one of the best game performance scores so far in the country. I think it's above 4.0 right now. Most teams average around, if you're in the top 30, 35, 3.0, closer to 2.5. They are winning games, but they're winning them handily. And I think the computer is recognizing that. And that's going to be key to them staying where they are. Now, still a lot of hockey to play, still need to continue to improve and make their strength of schedule worth it. I have no doubt, though, that they've got things in the right motion, and they're going to be one that we talk about. Now, I mean, we're getting the middle season, and we're going to have a long break coming up. We're going to be talking about them at the end of the year, not just for conference, but nationally. Congrats to the Blue Raiders on their win. Also should mention that Alabama and Kennesaw State took on each other, a 5-3 Kennesaw State win. They've had a really up and down start to the year, banged up lineup here and there. Reese Legault picked up a second period hat trick against the Crimson Tide, and of course played Middle Tennessee the next day. Didn't go so well.
Yeah, they play together, and they didn't really have the bite they usually had in their game. And that was one thing that surprised me. They showed a little bit of it in the MTSU game, but at that point the game had already been decided virtually. And I think that's something they're going to have to do, but find a way to stay out of the box. If they can, or even if you're taking the penalties, drag the other team into it, drag the other teams into the fight. Who have the teams that have been the most successful recently? Teams like Florida and Vegas and Tampa a few years ago. Those teams dragged you into the fight. They were physical, they were in your face. It's an uncomfortable game, and they didn't really have that necessarily. I know they're banged up. They don't have, they're not at full strength, but I'm sure a lot of teams are in the same way. No one's going to feel sorry for them. They're not going to get special consideration in the rankings. And their upcoming schedule are those three teams in the Veterans Cup. They play Alabama this upcoming weekend. They play MTSU the weekend after that, and then they finish up with a single game against Tennessee. Those are all M3 teams. You're gonna have to win if they want to, if they even have a hope at nationals. You're gonna have to win a majority of those, which is scary to think about because two of those games are against number one, but you don't really have an option.
I believe James Kravis and that group want that, though. That's a crew that needs the development, and some growing pains are necessary. They sure had one, but the other game, Tennessee beat Alabama 7-5 for the third place consolation to wrap up Veterans Cup weekend out in Huntsville, Alabama. Our final tournament until we get to the College Hockey South one all the way in late February. Let's talk about some other games that went around. USF traveled to Miami, and by golly, huge scores, 13-1, 11-2. I don't know if we reverse jinxed Miami. We were talking about this being a sleeper team. They must have heard the predictions on the Bulls side because this was pure another domination.
Yeah, USF seems to be on that plateau of MTSU as far as Division Three goes. They seem to be a little bit ahead of the pack. Miami said they were Jekyll and Hyde, and it looks like we didn't get the good Miami this weekend. They're going to be in a fight the rest of the way to try and get into the playoffs because it's important to mention our Division Three playoffs, College Hockey South playoffs. The top 12 teams will advance to the playoffs, and those are decided by ACHA rankings.
Well, hey, some news right there, right? I mean, that conference tournament's going to matter. We believe in every opportunity that they have to keep themselves in contention because, like we preface to people, those rankings are going to change. The Michigan schools are going to get a little more strength of schedule, we believe. You could see, if you drop a CHS game here or there, it could affect you in, your strength of schedule, and how much you lose by, especially. For you, SF, looking at their schedule, I really stand out to me is we'll talk about their weekend with Tampa M2, but they're going to have the Clearwater Jamboree in early December, and I really think that there's good spots for them to really secure a spot with UCF, Tampa, who they're going to play a couple of times here as we go on with the latter half of the year. Just a strong team, and I know every week it seems like we're talking about the same guys. You know who, Jacob Duham, Grant Dietz. For
We got
them,
to
it's
give him a
good.
nickname. Let's give him a nickname for the podcast. We'll circle back because
We'll circle back
obviously
to this. Yeah, I don't want to
we're going to
force
talk about
anything.
him
I
on
don't
the
want
next
to force
podcast,
anything.
right?
Yeah. Well, you threw it out there, so you got to come up with something, but don't
Okay, I
force it.
will.
Well, and we got to get one of these guys on at some point. I mean, we can't talk about these two every episode and not have them on as a guest at some point. But congrats to the Bulls on their weekend sweep. CF and Embry-Riddle. This was number 15 versus number 18. CF 15, Embry-Riddle 18. Entertaining series. After their little hiccup with the Spartans on the Battle at the Beach, Embry-Riddle got back on track. 4-2 and 3-2 wins over the Knights, and both games were back and forth. It really felt like for Embry-Riddle, seeing the little bit I did just box score wise, that they had a big series for different guys, like depth. 4 different goal scorers, and one of them, like Gerard Keane, is a standout product. Former OHL guy. Rowan Luke seems to be all over their special teams. He had a shorthanded goal, and they had one in each game, and that was really the difference for the Ice Eagles in this series.
Yes, we got to start talking about the podcast bump eventually because Coach Joyce has come on and the boys were already rolling. The Ice Eagles were doing their thing. Okay, so I don't want the podcast to take 100% credit, but man, they've been rolling. Is there a hotter team? Maybe save for Middle Tennessee State, obviously. But is there a hotter team in all of College Hockey South across every single division than Embry-Riddle Division 3?
I just don't think there's a better story. The way that they have, for lack of better words, been trying to get to a level where they can compete, get to a point where they are in the conversation for their conference. Nationally, it hasn't worked out in their favor. The ACHA, arguably a tougher league, and they are right in the mix of teams that we could see down the line. And I think this is, against the team that's closely ranked, a good omen for them. Really great job by Bob Joyce and that staff. I believe the stat we have here is that they've won 7 of their last 8 games, if you include the Battle of the Beach. So big things are happening still out there in Daytona. So be on the lookout for Embry-Riddle in the rankings this week. Tampa M2 traveled to Fairfield with the Stags, commanding series victory for them, 6-4 and 7-4 against the team they beat at AAU Nationals last year. They then traveled over to Quinnipiac, won over the Bobcats 9-2. Tampa M2 looks to be back on track with Nick Kuzlik's squad that we know had injury troubles. We hope they're getting that cleaned up as they have a really competitive contest coming up with USF here this weekend. Florida Atlantic M2 and Florida was the other M2 conversation and weekend. For Florida Atlantic, they take down in all 3 games another team that I didn't know was so banged up, but Florida had a couple of guys out. They were down to about 3.5 lines, and this helps the Owls a ton after they looked not so great against Tampa. Got swept by there. They got upset by Embry-Riddle. The story in this one, though, was their transfer from NCAA Division I, Jackson Newendike. 6 goals total in the weekend. He had a hat trick in game 1, a power play goal in each of the last 2. And even though we're going to, preface Florida was banged up, this is a comeback performance for FAU when they were, feeling like the 3rd team in line in that division.
Yeah, it seems like week to week we can't make heads or tails of our Division Two. 1 week it was like Tampa's the toast of the town. The 3-game sweep over FAU. One of those was the game of the week. They go out to Lindenwood. They hang in there a little bit, but ultimately lose those 2 games. Then they have ugly series against Florida, and Florida's the toast of the town. Then Florida goes into a limping FAU team. FAU takes all 3. Like, what's going on, man? Who knows? I know that FAU's got a bunch of different forwards mixed in that weren't on the team last year. Probably takes a few weekends to develop that chemistry. It's one thing to have talent, but another thing to have the chemistry and the familiarity. We talked about that with MTSU. So maybe we're starting to see that with them. It could be a real factor. Florida missing guys, it happens, right? Like there's nothing you can do. Are we gonna, take points away from FAU for beating a Florida team that's injured? No, they beat the team that's in front of them. So FAU did a great job. Shout out to them.
It's a beautiful thing when you can still say that a league is wide open. And I know Tampa is what they are. They are the number 1 team right now. Florida Atlantic right now is 2nd in the regular season standings. Of course, it all kind of will play out the same way. What's interesting is we're going to find out our first men's Division II rankings. They were a little bit delayed nationally for a week, and they're going to be in the Southeast region. I am so curious to find out, maybe even more than M3, what that looks like, which of those teams gets placed and makes the graphic. They're all fighting for a regional spot in February. That's the way you get to nationals in that league, that Division II. So things are wide open, and conference fans have a lot to look forward to for all 3 teams still. A lot to play for everybody. Florida ACDC and Florida State ACDC in the Battle of Jacksonville. 2 sides we just talked about. Battle at the Beach, it was a great win for Florida State. They, took that all the way into a championship in that tournament. But Florida gets the revenge, a 3-1 win from ViStar Arena. They wore the specialty jerseys, I believe, too, for this one.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool just to get to play in a big barn like that. You've got the team graphics on the screen. I know the ice probably felt pretty fresh, and this is awesome for both fan bases to get a split here.
Yeah, it seems like that could be a preview of what the conference championship game ends up looking like. 2 really, really good teams. I'm sure it felt amazing for Florida to get that win back. Both games that on a really elevated stage, battle at the beach, tournament atmosphere, game of the week, and then you go and play in a 10,000 plus seat arena, and it's for a good cause and everything. Veterans Day weekend had to be really, really cool for Florida to, tie the season series back up. We might see the rubber match in the conference championship game.
I'm thinking the same thing here. Florida Tech, I'm still pretty high on them. Before we keep going further, just should recognize too that Veterans Day just wrapped up, and I have military people in my family. You talked about it last week, Danny. So awesome to see all the players come through, all the donations, the camouflage sweaters. I believe UCF and Embry-Riddle were rocking some of those. Florida State, it's terrific, and we cannot stress enough how much service members mean for our country. We thank you, if you are a service member listening, for your service, for your sacrifice to this country. And there's no bigger game in my mind, no better game than a veteran in hockey, because I think a lot of those things translate, grittiness, tough. You have to be the most agile, most athletic person to play the game. So really awesome to see everybody get involved with Veterans Day festivities, whether you were in Vets Cup or not. Another series that went on in this rivalry, the Chomp versus the Chop, third week in a row we've said it, whatever. I don't know if it's actually true or not, what people say. The women's side took on each other, although I believe Florida won this game, so I think they take all 3 games in that series.
Sure did. Sure did.
Good
Yeah.
to see.
Another dominant performance from Marissa Bonilla. I think we're going to have more on her in a bit. But hey, another note on playoff formatting, and we're going to have a standings graphic and article to come out so we can have more clarity and people aren't left in the dark about it. But women's division broke into North and South divisions. We'll be taking 3 teams from each division, and then there will be 2 wildcard teams. Those based on conference games and points. And as of now, after this weekend, Florida would be the 3rd team going to playoffs from the South Division, which is, all Florida teams. So that very, very exciting. First year program, kind of like a similar story to Clemson, perhaps, where they don't have the numbers, maybe not the quantity, but they've got the quality, obviously. Hearing that anecdotally from the Tampa players talking about how competitive of a game that was, even though they're short on skaters. Big win for Florida. Both of them, both wins.
With a family member that graduated from Florida, kind of partially like to see that Florida State women's program, nothing to take away from them, getting their feet wet, figuring things out as well. That leads us into our 3 stars of the week. First star went to the performance by one of Middle Tennessee's best, and not someone we talk about all the time on this pod, but Kira Ogle, 4 goals, 4 apples, 8 points in those 2 games, named tournament MVP. Dan, I know you went to extent already about how that looked, but explain to me what it was like to see Ogle and just the style that he plays with for MTSU.
I don't know if you said Kira or Kieran, but I don't think it's that big of a deal, Gavin. We can just keep rolling. I'll look like a
But did I
goofball holding
say
my.
Kira Ogle?
It's Kieran.
Yeah.
Let's just keep rolling. Kieran, you played a fantastic tournament, and he kind of plays a complimentary role. Not to denigrate the young man, he had a heck of a weekend, obviously, but the focus goes really on the top line with Palmer, Chunchikov, and Siciliano, obviously with how much they produce. But yeah, he was just a steady force, playing on the same line as his brother, which has to be pretty cool. Seeing a lot of the goals this weekend, Ogle from Ogle, which was. I can't imagine playing on the same line as my brother. I don't think we would score very much.
Fair enough. Congrats to Kieran Ogle for the first star of the week in College Hockey South. Second star, Florida's Marissa Bonilla, 9 goals in 2 games against Florida State. And the third star of the week, Tampa M3's Tyler Hofberg for his performance against Florida Atlantic, 4 goals and 4 assists himself, 8 points over in South Florida. That Tampa M3 group, we've talked about them a lot. Number 2 team in the country at the time of this recording, and they are deep. And you mentioned teams that get under your skin, that are going to be in your face. They were all over Florida Atlantic in this one, 14-5 and 9-4 wins over there, led by Hofberg and company. A couple of guys with hat tricks in there, Yanni Satsula, Brennan Sickles. Really deep stuff they have over there in that group. Looking ahead for Week 11, we'll turn it back to South Florida for Clemson traveling down to Florida Atlantic. Now, 2 M3 teams that could be competing for the cut line this year when we get to playoffs. Not exactly a formatting set and secure, but Danny, I have a feeling these 2 teams are in a very similar position. And coming out of this series, I feel like we'll be the team that gets into the conference tournament ultimately.
Definitely. Both teams still trying to find themselves, I would say. Clemson lost a lot of players from their team last year. There went the lights again. Oh, goodness. I hope that's not an omen. Clemson, but they got a big split with South Florida a few weekends ago. And they had their series last weekend canceled, unfortunately. They were supposed to play Christopher Newport, but they're heading down to Boca, maybe starting to feel themselves a little bit, starting to play some better hockey after losing couple of ugly games to Middle Tennessee to start the year.
That game of the week will be Friday, November 14th at 7:30 p.m. East. I want to remind folks the criteria a little bit. It is about the strength of the game. TV, though, and this is objectively, does a great job with their broadcast. You can watch this game on Owl TV both Friday and Saturday. Friday's game will be at Boca Ice Center, and Saturdays will be at the Panthers Ice Den out in Coral Springs, Florida. So I'm traveling for 2 sides, and comes down to ice time for Florida Atlantic. That's why the games are played at those 2 different rinks. Florida M2 will travel up to Ole Miss for a weekend with the Rebels at the Mid-South Ice House and visiting an Ole Miss team, former College Hockey South. They are struggling 1-5, 1-0. This seems like a great opportunity for Frank Pasquale's group that's banged up right now to get back on track.
Yep, and I believe this goes hand in hand with the the Florida football Gators going to Oxford to play Ole Miss, and those series are becoming more commonplace and amongst the SEC schools. So that's cool to see. Yeah, good opportunity for Florida playing another Division two team. As we saw from the other teams that have been on the wrong end of sweeps at CHS's Division two, you want to nip this in the bud immediately. You don't want the bad vibes to continue. It's not as easy as it sounds, right? And they're short staffed, they're a little banged up, but you want to turn the ship right back in the right direction as soon as possible.
Should be noted, too, that Zach Selmansky will sit out game number 1 after serving a 2-game suspension, but he'll be back for their game. I believe it's on Sunday, so a little bit of a weird, not Sunday, excuse me, a Thursday and a Saturday schedule, if I'm not mistaken, out there in Olive Branch, Mississippi.
Those Zelmanskis play a rough brand of hockey. I love it. I love both of them. Zach and Zarek for the ACDC squad, number 6, 7, double Z's, ZZ. But yeah, they talk about in-your-face physical brand of hockey, the Zelmanskis. I really enjoyed watching them play, both of them, for sure.
So I'll just point it out. This weekend, I may have called Zach Zarek close to about 20 times and didn't realize that it was, yes, the other Selmansky. Because I've seen the ACDC Florida team, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, I have it written down too. Like, it's one of those things when you're calling a game sometimes you don't realize the one thing. Like, in full disclosure, I try to prep as well as I can, study the roster before the game, know them. It just happens. But I felt so bad, and I tried to find him after, and I couldn't. So if you listen to this, Zach, I'm sorry for calling you Zarek, and maybe vice versa if I got him mixed up. But no, they do. Zach is a guy that flies around. He's a bowling ball, and he's not afraid to get in your face. And we saw a little bit of that with a scrap with Daniel Toe for FAU. Someone they need with, like we mentioned, needing to get back on track. And we expect them to go into Olive Branch, Mississippi and compete in that series. Moving things along, Alabama and Kennesaw State. You talked about the Vets Cup. These two teams played each other. ASU won 5-3 out in Huntsville. Alabama is still without a conference win this season, 0-8-0-0. Tough to see. We hope that Alabama's competing. They actually competed really well with Middle Tennessee a few weeks ago. So it's unfortunate. Maybe they get their first conference win this weekend. And elsewhere going on at M3, UCF travels to Miami on Friday and Saturday. Both these teams played each other a year ago in their season opener. UCF took the first game 4-3, and Miami took it 4-2. These are two ranked teams. Miami top 20, UCF coming off being number 15. We'll see where they're at by Friday. Competitive series last year, and I think this is one that people can, at least their supporters, look forward to. Can go either way.
For sure. I mean, we'll mention it again. Don't know which Miami will get. You would have to think they've got a chip on the shoulder wanting to get back after, some ugly scores against USF. And UCF, I mean, a loss is a loss at the end of the day, but when you're talking about rankings that can take in consideration, how bad the loss is as far as goal differential and everything. UCF had a couple of tight ones against Embry-Riddle. Miami, did they lose both by 10 goals to USF? That's hard to overcome when you're in a battle for ranking. So got to be a whole lot of fire going into this one for Miami.
Final game to look at for this weekend, at least ones we'll sort of preview. Florida Women's travels to USF. So our friend Lizzie Pinigen will play this Florida team again. Hopefully this time they have the referees scheduled correctly and they don't play with just one that they borrowed from a men's league game. USF won on October 25th, 6-2. And, Florida, it's against Florida State, but they are coming off 3 straight wins.
Yep, and it features 2 of the premier offensive talents in the conference, Chloe Valente and Marissa Bonilla, both multiple-time stars of the week. So we might have to put them on Chunchakov Island. We call that Braden Curry Island, Grant Dietz Island. I actually saw it in the comment section because our 3 stars post came out today. One of Marissa's teammates commented almost immediately. It was like, 2nd week in a row? And I was like, yeah, you want to avoid that, but hey, I mean, she's making it hard to not put her in, right? And that's what all these players have done so far.
You know, you just harped on something there, the islands. These are groups or duos that are in, different states. So I don't know if there's any islands out in Tennessee, like if there's a lake or anything. But, is
There's
that what
old
you're
Rocky
rolling?
Top. There's old Rocky Top.
But, I think of Tennessee when you think of Rocky Top. So what do you call Middle Tennessee?
I don't know.
Ride the
Just outside
Lightning.
of old Rocky Top.
I mean, those guys are lightning in a bottle every time they touch the ice. Maybe you could do something there with it being a Blue Raider and all. I don't know. I'm just spitballing. I don't even know if this is going to go in. Gavin's probably going to keep this in, but we'll figure something out. We'll give you more time to think about your nickname for the USF Men's Bowls. But on that women's side, really looking forward to that for Chloe Valente. I've mentioned this pod before, former Michigander, and there's an extra bump this week. With it being Veterans Weekend, we did celebrate, if you're a Michigander, the 50th anniversary of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Just saying, I don't know if that's a bump for Chloe Valente, but I would, if I were her, I would go for at least 6 or 7 goals in honor of the Edmund Fitzgerald. What a great episode! What a great conversation with Claire.
Mm-hmm.
I'm anticipating that M3 is going to shake up a lot. I hope people aren't too upset if the computer favors those northern teams. But hey, Middle Tennessee is going to stay as the number 1 team. Tampa ain't going anywhere. USF ain't going anywhere. And we ain't going anywhere. Thanks, everybody, for listening to another edition of College Hockey Mouth, a sit-down with Claire Carson. We'll be back next week for another one. Enjoy the rest of your week, everyone, and good luck in your games.